steeped in legend and brimming with secrets awaits you. Grab your sword, don your tunic, and prepare to lose yourself in a realm of legends. Welcome, heroes, once more, to the wilds of Hyrule. We're talking about Tears of the Kingdom. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the 3VO podcast, where we are all on the same team. I'm one of your hosts, Brendan.
And I'm the other one, Jordan.
And if you're new here, we're just two big old nerds that love to share our love of video games and what it is that makes them great with the world. So if you too are a lover of video games, then this is the show for you. And once again, we are back!
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. I think in the last episode we recorded, we were like, we're back!
Yeah, the last one was a big we're back thing.
And then we disappeared.
Months later, we're back again.
Well, in the interim, there have been some updates. If you're watching the video of this podcast, and you can already tell that we have a lovely new set behind us.
It looks so incredibly good. And just for full transparency, I had nothing to do with this at all.
Which is why it looks so good. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You say that, but then it was a struggle to get me to get that on straight. So
see, you
does.
So
I did help. I put a thing up.
But if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, you are probably noticing no differences whatsoever. So,
hopefully, anyway.
I'm sorry. Yeah, hopefully no differences. Hopefully it's not gone worse. But we've moved. That's the big thing, which is why production was put on pause for the podcast for quite a while. We were thrown into a situation where we needed to move, and so we did, and now we're here. But now we've got a set out of it. So
I know, and just like this wall, it looks so good. We've got space to put more stuff up. I'm excited.
Yes, set to improve.
Yeah,
over time.
Walked into it and just like immediately was just like about how good it looked.
Same. When I woke up this morning, I came out and I looked at it and I was like, it's so pretty.
It looks really good.
But anyway, so yeah, we're back, and we're gonna get back onto a regular recording schedule now that we've got our set and our setup and all of that. Like, we are good to go. So more episodes forthcoming. But in the meantime, what have you been up to?
Well, first, it's been a while.
Oh,
hey guys,
we can't not have a soapbox moment.
I mean, it's just, and this is, I can't do all the soapbox moments that I've been saving up. That would be the whole episode. But just want to say really quickly here, if you're the kind of person who's harassing Target employees just because you don't like the fact that gay children exist, maybe you're the problem. And also, Target, if you're actually concerned about your employee safety because of shit like this, just dropping the merchandise isn't actually going to be helpful. You're a billion-dollar corporation. Hire more fucking security. Other than that, I've been pretty good.
Just to chime in on that, like,
yeah, please,
absolutely, 100%, everything that you said. Get more security, like,
yeah, like
Target.
You just don't give in to these people.
Don't give in to hate groups.
Don't give in to hate groups.
Like,
the worst kind of message you could send out.
It's the worst,
and only proves that like your allyship has been purely for propaganda. You didn't actually give a shit to
that. Was never in.
I mean, just like it was never a question, and I understand that.
Yeah,
but still, just like you just put the nail in the coffin that we already saw. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it was just
shit
confirmed.
Yeah.
Fuck
you, Target.
Yeah, really. Beyond that though, things have been good, been a little busy. Excited. I won't give away too many specifics, but I'm going to be on a film set today. On the crew side, I'm going to be a script supervisor. Just been on Google all week, just like trying to figure out like what does that
what
entail?
Is a script supervisor?
I do.
That's really cool. It's cool to have friends that have experience and are like, hey, come do this thing, and they trust you enough to like do it, you know? Yeah.
Because at first I was just like, oh yeah, sure. And then I started researching and I was just like, oh, I'm like in charge of continuity for this shoot.
I was gonna say that's what a script supervisor does, right?
It's like I'm essentially like the eyes for the editor when the editor is not there.
Right.
Like I'm making sure like as much as I can things line up, but also like taking notes for like which shots the director and the DP like the most, like which one had sound issues, which ones had continuity issues, stuff like that. So
cool.
Just a lot of back and forth and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Cool.
Other than that, video game wise, to keep it a bit more on track.
Sure.
One of the big things for me was that the New Game Plus DLC released for God of War Ragnarok, because the game did not have a New Game Plus before.
Nice.
They announced it was going to be downloadable for it.
Nice. And it's harder than the original game.
Not harder. It just means that like, well, I mean, like it does with a good New Game Plus, at least to me, when you start over, it does sort of compensate for the fact that you are starting at the level that you were at when you finish up the game. So that way you're not just blowing through everything.
Right.
But it's really nice to be able to like not have to earn a bunch of the stuff up. But it still has a really, really nice like level progression where it's like my Kratos in the game is like maxed out level wise, but I can keep maxing out my equipment and I can keep finding amulets that'll like help upgrade
so you
stuff.
can still boost yourself.
I could still boost myself and get up.
You're at the level cap, but like you can still increase your stats.
Exactly. There's still ways to like keep building and building and building.
Sure.
And then the other thing I did was that I downloaded I think it's a remaster version of L.A. Noire, which I don't know if you're familiar with that game at all.
Not at all.
Having replayed through it again years and years later, I'm definitely going to want to do an episode where I talk about it. So I think it's one of those things where it was just like there was a lot of innovation gameplay wise, but that kind of means that certain other things kind of fell on the back burner and weren't as like well done within the the game itself. But I still enjoy it. I still like it. So
what's the like genre? What is this game?
The game is it's a Rockstar game, and it sort of tries to have like an old like noir detective story feel to it. It's kind of like the
shocker.
I know, just sort of like the feel to it. But it's a cool thing because like the main gameplay mechanic is the interrogations that you do with people.
Okay.
And you have to sort of like, you literally just watch facial expressions and determine if someone's lying or telling the truth. And then you have to determine if you have the evidence to prove that they were lying, or if you have to just sort of like pressure them to like to get like the answers that you want and stuff like that.
Okay. So it's kind of like, it's giving like Wolf Among Us a bit.
A bit, yeah, but it's
in like that it's narrative driven, and then it's not like combat based or anything like that. It's not an RPG.
There is some combat to it, but yeah, it is mostly like and that's kind of where I'll get into it when I write the episode. But just like I think that's if they had just focused on that and like, no, this is a story based.
Yeah.
Like this is the main mechanic of the game, and they didn't try to have those other elements to it. I think it would have come off a little bit better.
Gotcha.
But since they tried to sort of like be like, well, people aren't going to just sit there and just like go through interrogation versus interrogation and whatnot over and over again. We need to have, people want to be able to run around and shoot and like do car chases and stuff like that.
People want to run around and shoot their guns. I get it.
Which some of that is fun in the game. There's moments of it where it is really fun in the game, but just like also, I'll get into it later. We're not going to sit here.
Tune in for the LA Noire episode soon.
And how about yourself? How have you been?
So when last we recorded, I was in the middle of Sweeney Sweeney Todd. So wrapped that up, and am now in another production. I'm gonna be in West Side Story, which is very exciting. What?
I did West Side Story. So yeah, I did it in high school.
What did you play?
I was Lieutenant Schrank. I was the mean, racist old cop.
The jerk face.
The absolute asshole. Yeah.
I'm playing one of the Jets, so I get to dance a lot, and I'm very excited.
That's fun. I started that show being bounced back and forth between Jet and Shark because fucking high school in the middle of California did not have enough diversity or at least enough diversity for kids who were interested in doing the show, as it were.
Okay.
So they were just like, well, you're tan. You could kind of go back and forth between both.
Oh, boy.
School productions are great.
We do not have that problem in my production.
Okay, good.
Thank goodness, yeah. But yeah, so I'm working on that. I might also audition for another musical this summer.
Do it.
I'm trying to say busy. Booked and blessed,
I love it. That's awesome.
But yeah, so that's what I've been up to. Video game-wise, I've been playing the topic of our episode
today.
Of
course.
It's been consuming my life, which we're going to get into. But before that release, I was playing just so much Genshin Impact. This is a game.
That sounds familiar.
Yes, this is a game that I had previously disparaged.
On
this show. So I'm getting up on my soapbox to say that I was wrong about Genshin Impact. I came back to it because I was like, I need a game that's going to like take up a bunch of time and like keep my interest and is something that I can play with Garrett.
Oh, gotcha.
Because we were looking for things to play together. We settled on Genshin Impact. Not that you can play it together. You can, but it's not good to play it together. The co-op is bullshit.
Not good. Okay.
Well, it's like you jump into their world And so one of you is like the leader, and it's your world that you're in. So that person can open all the chests and get all the items and stuff, and the other person is just tagging along and can't get anything. I know.
Oh, that's like
it's not great.
It reminds me they did a co-op for Fable 3.
Uh-huh.
And I think they might have had it in 2 as well, but it was like you couldn't join in like as your character from your Fable thing. You had to just like be like this like random level 1 that was like running around with the other guy and doing stuff. So it was just like not good. Terrible.
But anyways, I had previously disparaged Genshin Impact for being basically Breath of the Wild, but like make it a JRPG.
Gotcha.
I've since come around. It's a fantastic game, and it is an MMO, but
okay,
it's not a pay to win MMO. Like you can pay for stuff, and you can like there's a gacha mechanic, so you can like roll to try to get better characters and stuff.
I see what you mean.
But like, if you don't want to do any of that, you do not have to. And there's so much content, and the cutscenes and the story are very good.
Ooh,
and like every time I like hit a cutscene and story's unfolding, and I'm just like watching the animation, I'm like, this is a free game. This is free.
Yeah.
It's free. Like, what are we doing? Like, how are they providing this to? Because a lot of people are paying for the gacha.
A lot of people are paying for the yeah.
But it's so solid for a free game that you do not have to pay to win, and I've come around on it quite a lot. And there's hundreds of hours of content.
Ooh, okay.
Hundreds. And more unfolding all of the time.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah. So, play Genshin Impact, kids.
Something else I want to mention at the top here while we're talking about, because we will need to check it out at some point and either discuss on the podcast or maybe do like a gameplay version or something like that. One of our favorite games that we have talked about on the show, its sequel finally came out. Atlas Trials is out right now. Have you been
seeing, any
of the stuff for it?
I saw and I was like, excuse me.
This looks terrifying.
It looks
straight up horrifying.
So fill the people in. Let them know what's going on.
So if you are unfamiliar with the Outlast series, there are 2 previous titles. The first title we have talked about on this show.
Go watch episode, I think it's episode 4.
It's one of our earlier episodes.
It's titled Project Honshu.
Yes.
Go find the episode.
Oh yeah, when we were still doing our little bits at the beginning. So
what do you mean? What do you mean still? We still do that.
I mean, we still do, but it's it's a survival horror game series in which that like the main mechanic of it is you just have to run around, hide. You cannot fight back. They made Outlast 2, which was a little bit different and I wasn't as big of a fan of, but now they have a new one that has an interesting 4-player co-op mechanic to it, in which it is you and a group of people who are trying to survive in it's not the same environment as the first game, but it's similar to the first game. It's another like hospital-esque setting that you're trying to get out of, but you're sort of in like a weird Saw experiment thing too as well, is sort of what it seems like.
All you had to say was Outlast 4-player co-op, and I was sold. I don't care what the rest is. I don't care.
And there is a single-player option for the game too, which I do appreciate, because I'm just like, cool, but I'm not in the mood anymore to go online and play with a bunch of strangers that I don't know, personally speaking.
Who does that?
Oh, some people are still into it. Well, we got traumatized the last time we tried to play online with me.
Oh my god, that's right, when we tried to play, what was it, Team Fortress 2?
We tried to play Team Fortress 2. We joined a game and we were just like met with a fucking just like litany of racial slurs, and we were like,
it was bad.
We don't want to be here anymore. But yeah, so we'll need to check that out and talk about it at some point too.
I would be happy to,
because you know we love Outlast.
Absolutely
love Outlast.
We should stream it.
I'd be down. I'd be totally down to stream it.
Let's do it. You heard it here first.
Doing it.
As soon as Outlast Trials comes out, we're streaming it.
It's on stream. It's planned to be released for at least Xbox in July, I think. So I think it's like July 13th or something like that. That's what I saw. So yeah, it'll be coming out soon. So we'll need to grab that.
All right. Now that that's out of the way, it's time to talk about what we're really here to talk about, and that's Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. It's so good, Jordan. I can't believe that you never got into Legend of Zelda.
I know,
really deep.
I've been,
Oh my gosh.
I've especially with the stuff that I've been seeing for Tears of the Kingdom specifically. This is when I'm really kicking myself for not getting into the series.
You could grab it. Like,
I totally
would be fine.
could. I would need to pick. I could just pick it up and start playing it. I know.
Yeah. So if you haven't heard, the newest installment of the Legend of Zelda series, Tears of the Kingdom, is out. It is the direct sequel to Breath of the Wild, and it directly follows the events that unfolded within Breath of the Wild with that story.
So that was going to be my first question, because I know that Zelda has had sort of like pseudo sequels in the past.
Yeah.
But they've never been like, well, now here's where we pick up directly from the last one. It's sort of like a different adventure, sort of like based in the same world, but not like a direct sequel for what happens there.
Right. It is not common at all. In that you could only argue that it's only ever happened like one time in the past. And that would be with Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask.
Yes, I was going to say that's the only thing I can think of.
Arguably, okay. Getting into the Zelda timeline for a hot second. We'll get right out of it, I swear.
Well, no, time out. We don't need to get too deep into it because we have a Zelda timeline episode that we did.
But just for a little bit of context.
No, I got you.
A little bit of context in this episode.
I know. Just had to slip in another plug to our own channel.
So, Ocarina of Time,
yes,
which is the game that chronologically preceded Majora's Mask, IRL. That game ends in one of three ways. There's like three different timelines that it splits off into from Ocarina of Time. We're not going to go into all of them. In one of them, Link goes back in time to relive his childhood, or to finish living out his childhood.
Yes.
That is the game that that is the timeline that propels us into Majora's Mask.
Yes.
So Majora's Mask being a direct sequel of Ocarina of Time is like arguably true.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is the only time that it's ever happened past that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Breath of the Wild happens, there's some wrap up, there's some epilogue, there's a little bit of time in between, and then Tears of the Kingdom picks up.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So Tears of the Kingdom is out, and it has been consuming my life, our roommate's life, my husband's life, everybody's lives.
I haven't seen anything bad about the game. No. Like, there's been nothing, and especially with like the way that people were sort of like, some of the stuff I was seeing leading up to it, people were like, when sort of it got revealed that like, no, this is a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild. Kind of started seeing the rumblings from like Zelda people, like Zelda fans who were like, really? Because like normally it sort of goes like, it's either something like Majora's Mask, or it's a brand new title with like a different, it's still the Hyrule setting, but like it's a fairly different world, and like sort of different mechanics and stuff that go into it. So it was really interesting to see that there was like, no, it's same world, same Link, like all the same stuff.
Yeah. And I'll admit there was some apprehension for me too. I was like, we're going to the same Hyrule, like the same map.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, this basically makes it DLC, right? Like we're doing the same game. It's night and day. It is totally different. And like, the main map is the same, but then there's also a whole sky level.
Yes.
And then there's also a whole underground level.
Oh, I didn't know about that part.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That was the surprise.
That's a shock.
Yeah, no, absolutely it was. That was the surprise when the game came out, because all of the marketing and everything that we saw was, here's like main map that you're familiar with, and then we're also going to do a sky level.
Yeah.
And there's going to be like floating islands in the sky. Okay, cool. You know, we've kind of dabbled in that before, especially with like Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword and a little bit in Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. So like, cool, sky layer, awesome. So we'll have more to explore up there. Once you get into the game, very quickly, you find out that there is an underground. And the first time I was going in there, I was like, oh, it'll be like a little cave underground. Sure.
Yeah.
No, bitch.
Really?
It is a whole fucking map underneath.
Just a whole other like expansive world.
It is the world copy pasted down below. Not copy pasted.
No, I know what you mean though.
But like down below, again, just as expansive.
That's so interesting because, like, in the way we again, not the biggest Zelda fan, but in like the talking about the other episodes and some of the stuff that I've seen from Zelda, it kind of seems like they are sort of merging stuff from other like themes from other games too. Because, like you said, you have had that other like the sky level for things in previous games too.
Yeah.
But you have also had that sort of like, it's not the exact same, but that sort of like flip reverse of Hyrule that exists in like a different layer from the world that you're in.
Correct.
So it's really cool to kind of see like they're sort of taking, it seems like the Zelda team kind of took like all the tools they already had in their tool shed and have just gone like, okay, we know this works and this works and this works. Let's put this into this new world that we have.
Precisely.
Yeah,
that is like exactly what I was going to get at. It is all of the games. Everything is kind of getting tied together a little bit. And it's not plot exactly, but it's like, oh, we're pulling from this, we're pulling from this, we're pulling from this, right?
Right.
So we're doing Majora's Mask because it's a direct sequel to a previous Zelda title.
Yes.
We're doing Skyward Sword because we've got the sky layer and some of the story, some of the lore that's getting dropped in Tears of the Kingdom has to do with a civilization that lived in the sky and came down and visited the first Hylians, things like that, which is basically Skyward Sword.
Right.
Or the people that preceded the people that live on the Sky Islands in Skyward Sword.
Yes.
We're also doing Ocarina of Time because one of the things that you're going to do in the game, spoilers ahead, one of the things you're going to do in the game is awaken sages and get them onto your team. So that is Ocarina of Time. Like, that is Ocarina of Time. And then, I mean, everything else is kind of getting involved in some way. There's a lot of armor that you can get in this game, way more than in the last title.
Okay.
And a lot of them are named for previous characters. So like you can get like Xant's helm, which he was a bad guy in Twilight Princess.
Yes, okay.
And you can get the big Goron sword, which is a sword from Ocarina of Time. So like everything is involved. Like nothing is off limits. It's so awesome.
Okay, because that kind of answers something that I was curious about too. Because it actually hit me on the way over here today that I was just like, this is a very expansive Zelda sequel, a new Zelda title that exists on the same platform that its predecessor was on. You know what I mean? And just like kind of seeing and talking about it now too, of how expansive and how much they have added to the world. It's more impressive to me that they have been able to make a new game out of it without having to expand to a new platform.
I see what you're saying.
Because normally with like how much it has grown,
yeah,
normally you would have to upgrade your you'd have to upgrade your software in a certain way in order to get something like that. Because even with like stuff like to use examples that I know with stuff like any of the Rockstar titles, like the Grand Theft Autos and stuff like that, the next time we see a huge evolution in what the games can do is when a new console or new like computer mechanics come out, stuff like that. I'm seeing people on TikTok and stuff who have full on made like mech armor.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is a Switch. How? Like,
it's so I've been seeing a lot of discourse about how complex this game is.
Yeah.
In that. So again, spoilers ahead. If you don't want to hear, like, tune out. But some of the main mechanics in the game are taking different pieces and things and fusing them together. And there's also a lot of what are called zonai devices.
Okay.
That do a function when you like activate them, right? So there's like wheels and there's fans and there's like flamethrowers, you know, like pick and choose, like there's a lot of different stuff, right? So these devices plus your ability to fuse things together means that you can build kind of whatever your heart can imagine. Exactly. I'm, as one TikToker, I can't remember the TikToker I saw, but somebody was pointing out, like, I'm happy to get a rock on a stick, and other people are, like, out here building rockets.
It's me. That is me to a T.
Like, she said people are out here getting their aerospace engineering degrees from Hyrule U, and we're, like, Neolithic hominids with our rocks and sticks. Like, that's exactly how I feel. I do not have the brain to, like, build the, like, Gundams that people are building.
Some of the stuff I've seen has been, and it's been, like, a far range from just, like, kind of what you were talking about, just kind of like, I managed to, like, get something on top of a rock and, like, I made it kind of blast off in a certain direction. And then some people are straight up kind of like, yeah, I wanted to get into the sky, so I just built a rocket. And now I'm...
Wild. So a lot of times you want to go, like, you want to go up to get some height, and like you also kind of want to be able to like steer yourself and move yourself forward, right? So a lot of the times there's fans which will push like a heavy amount of pressure, and there's like you can grab like wooden slabs and stuff, right? So you throw a couple of fans pointing down on a wooden slab, you can go up, right?
Yes.
It's very basic.
Yeah.
There's enough like a sandbox element to the game that I saw it on TikTok, somebody built like, oh yeah, I'm standing here on the steering wheel piece and I put a stabilizer under it, and then I put everything else around it such that the fans move around me so that I am always perfectly vertical. I can never fall off of this creation, and like literally it's like a gyroscope, like they're still in the center and it's gyroscoping around them
my God.
As they're flying through the air. I'm like, excuse me?
That's insanity.
It's wild.
That is insane.
Yeah. So
really cool though, but just like to me, that's the proper sandbox format though, is just sort of like, listen, we have the basic mechanics here to where you could sort of like do it in a way that like isn't super complicated or complex, you know what I mean? And get through some of the problems with like simple things like, stick a fan on a plank of wood, you'll be able to solve this problem.
Exactly.
But if you want to innovate, the options are there. You know what I mean? Like, I love that.
Yeah, no, it's wild. And anything that we didn't like about Breath of the Wild, I feel kind of got like fixed a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the things that like I personally didn't like about Breath of the Wild was the weapon system. It just felt like a little not great.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
Because in previous Zelda titles, we're used to getting a weapon or whatever in each dungeon, and then we use that to like solve the dungeon, and then we have that weapon for the rest of the game, right?
Yeah.
So you get like a big fuck off hammer, or you get a boomerang or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But in Breath of the Wild, you don't get any of that. It's just
Yeah.
whatever you can pick up, and over time they wear down and then they break inevitably.
To which I will say, just like for me personally, that does kind of like take me out of a game a little bit. So I'm just like, I hate the stress of like having to find a new weapon because it
Yeah.
broke. I'm not a fan of that.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's like unless it's like storyline wise, I'm a little bit more okay with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. If it's the plot, sure.
Yeah.
But under normal circumstances in the middle of a battle, your sword breaks. It's not
just
great.
like, well,
not great.
Cool. I'm just gonna start kicking this hobgoblin or whatever until I can find.
Yeah, exactly. Now with Tears of the Kingdom, that is still pretty much true, but with the fuse mechanic that I was talking about, you can grab things from around your environment and stick them onto your weapon, and it adds durability, and it makes them stronger.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have like much more powerful weapons than we did in the last game, which is very nice. And you can hold on to, like, you can expand your inventory like in the last game, so you can hold on to a lot of weapons at the same time. It's not like you can only have one sword. That would be not
Yeah.
But you can, you can have a sword, and then you can put a halberd on it, and you can have a halberd sword, and you can yeah. I'm not even kidding.
No, I'm just like what. I'm trying to determine the benefit of doing that, because like a halberd is already like a spear, but with like a little bit more of a blade on the end of it.
Yep.
So what does it do to add a
Lots of reach. Oh, lots of reach.
Okay.
Yep.
Fair enough.
There are these like skeleton monsters that you can fight,
Right.
and when they die, they'll drop like their arm, and it'll still be like moving around, and you can grab it and use it as a weapon, or you can fuse it onto the end of your sword and have like a bokoblin skelly arm sword. Yeah.
He's got this giant stick, basically.
Yeah.
Only just an arm that's like flopping around.
Yep.
At the top.
Absolutely.
I do remember from the little bit of playing Breath of the Wild of picking up an arm and just being like, oh, what the fuck?
But yeah, so I think largely like the weapon system got fixed.
Okay, cool.
Kingdom. Oh no!
Well,
ding.
I don't think I bumped into anything.
For audio listeners, our set's falling apart on day one, so that's great.
Well,
that's the one you put up. I'll just point that out.
It really is, though. Do we want to try to put it, or are we just done with it?
We'll just fix it later. Anyways, as I was saying, I think that the weapon system got fixed, and that the mechanics that Tears of the Kingdom has introduced is just, it's all good. It's all fantastic, no notes. The other mechanics that have been introduced are ascend, which basically means like if you've got something above you and there's not something at the very, very top that would like prevent you from entering it, you can like crawl through it. So like in caves, you can just be like, I would like to be out now, please, and boop, you can just go through the rock. Yeah.
Just like the relief I felt for a game I've never played. But just like the amount of times I've sat there in a game and just been like, if I could just go straight up right now,
vertical,
that would be so nice. I just don't want to be here anymore. I want to be out. It's so.
I've heard, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that mechanic was built by the developers just to help them while they were developing the game.
Right.
And that they were like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
What if we put it in the game? And then they did.
I like that. It's very Mojang-esque in terms of like that's what happened with the creepers. Like I guess there was like a weird bug that kept showing up in the game, and they were just like, just make it part of the fucking thing.
Not a bug, it's a feature.
no, it's if you leave it in, it's a feature.
So there's that. There's also a mechanic where you can like build, like pick up things and then move them to other things and then fuse them together. You can fuse things onto your weapons, like I said. And then there's a recall ability, so you can rewind a thing's motion in time.
That's really, really cool.
That's really, really cool.
Because I know that was one of the things that was also Breath of the Wild was a little bit of a mechanic with being, but it was more like being able like to freeze things in a moment. And then you can sort of affect the physics around it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. There was stasis. You could, like,
there we go.
freeze a thing, and then you could smack it a whole bunch, and then all of that, like, momentum or whatever would build up, and then when it released, it would go. Yeah. So kind of similar to that, but now it's just directly like, okay, you're rewinding now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Which leads to some interesting puzzle solving.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
I can't name anything specific, but I've played other games where like the rewind, move forward. Oh, it's sort of what was the game we played together on stream? Freaking It Takes Two.
Oh yeah, that's right. There is that section where you have the
rewind fast forward ability. Other than that, it was like okay, yeah. Remember when we got stuck there for an hour and a half and it was way more simple than we were making it?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm blocking that out.
That's fun,
also, like Prince of Persia comes to mind.
Yes, very much.
I only used the rewind to like not die. So
a lot of that, yeah. I remember in the first when they initially did the remake, because that Prince of Persia is actually a remake of an old like computer game from back in the day.
Really?
Yeah, it's an old side scroller from way back.
Metroid,
so very much in that time.
Gotcha.
Frame. Yeah. But yeah, there were some puzzles where it was just like, no, you need to like rewind and stop and do all that stuff.
Yeah,
but that's kind of cool though. I like that. Okay.
Yeah. There's part of the plot of this game is that like the Sky Islands are like ruins from the ancient civilization, and parts of the ruins are like actually raining down onto the land of Hyrule.
Yeah.
So like every once in a while you'll be out exploring and a big chunk of ruin will like fall down and hit the earth, but you can use your recall ability to rewind it, and then you can get on top of it and then get a bunch of height and then keep flying around.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool. Oh my god, I love that so much. I have a very, very important question about the game.
I'm okay.
And I am ready. And it was a discussion when the game got announced, and a discussion when they revealed like some of the elements that were going to be involved.
Yeah.
So I think our fan base would like to know, how hot is Ganondorf?
Oh. Pretty hot.
I've seen the image, and my first thought was, "Hey Nintendo, what are we doing here? Like, do you want me to root for this guy?" Like,
well, he's hot, but he's humanoid. But the internet is going absolutely feral.
Oh, they are going nuts. It isn't.
Well, no, for Ganondorf, but also for this other character that's been introduced, who's one of the Zonai, this ancient civilization.
I haven't seen anything for that person.
They've got. Look it up right now. I'll vamp for time.
I want to look this guy.
Look up Rauru. Rauru.
Rauru.
Tears of the Kingdom, and the internet is going absolutely feral.
Let me see what this guy
for this man. This new race of beings, the Zonai, has been introduced in this game, and
is it this?
Yeah, that's him.
Ooh, okay.
He said, "Okay."
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
I get it too.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Is that am I just old and I miss stuff, but like, or is that like a new thing that's just like, I feel like every time a title comes out now, there is just like the internet goes like, who do we thirst over? Like, who's the
There's always
like,
one.
Almost well, like when Resident Evil Village trailer dropped, the first thing that I saw was people were just like hot for Lady Dimitrescu.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is the new trend in gaming, is just like, all right, who do we think is sexy?
Yeah. It's very true. Between Ganondorf and Rauru, like there's a little something for everybody.
It seems like.
Yeah.
Rauru seems to have a little bit of like an opposite energy to someone like
definitely.
Ganondorf.
And it's like non-human but human enough.
Oh yeah.
You know?
When does that ever stop the internet?
Well, very true. As my husband said, the first night we were playing this game, we looked up and down Rauru and he said, "Yep, approved race."
I get what he means. Out of context, though, that sounds really...
Oh, no!
That sounds really, really bad.
Yeah, no.
There's no white man going approved race. It's not a fucking good look.
Approved fantasy...
For sure.
Yeah. A group of people. I can't make it better.
It doesn't. I know the context of it behind it. One time, just saying, please nobody isolate that audio.
great. And I'm the one saying it. And it was my husband's word. No, it's fine. Anyway, so
but I do beside that I do have like a legit question about that.
Oh, okay.
About I don't know if this is just like because of the announcement of that it's going to be Matthew Mercer being the voice for Ganondorf in this game and whatnot, which I'm sure is wonderful on its own.
Yeah.
Is it sort of different than we've had in the past, or is it like a very similar vibe, or now that like he has like...
You mean like the Ganondorf character in general?
The Ganondorf character in general, because I feel like that like it was not... And most of the previous titles, like there's been some dialogue, like out loud dialogue in the Zelda games and whatnot, but mostly it's been text on screen. Link is traditionally mute, and most of the times you don't get like full dialogue cutscenes and whatnot from the other characters.
Right.
Like you do have some cinematics in there, but it's mostly like you're reading text on the screen.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like, is there something different in that sense for our main baddie this time?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. It's been a while since we've actually had Ganondorf as a character in the world making moves.
That's true. Because even in Breath of the Wild, it was like different variations and sort of versions.
Exactly. Yeah. And he was like, quote, Calamity Ganon.
Yes.
He wasn't even Ganondorf.
Right.
The Demon King.
That's true.
Honestly, I'm going back. I'm trying to recall. In Ocarina of Time, it's Ganondorf. He's a character. He's making moves. He's like in the world. You see him when you're a kid, that whole thing. He's not in Majora's Mask. Twilight Princess, the main bad guy is Zant, and he's being controlled by Ganondorf. So Ganondorf doesn't even really show up until the end.
Yeah.
Skyward Sword, again, some other guy, and it's not even Ganondorf. It is the first guy.
Yes, that's right.
Demise, who's reincarnated as Ganondorf in later generations. After Skyward Sword, we have... Wind Waker, we have Ganondorf.
Yes.
He's out there, he's doing stuff.
Yeah.
Wind Waker. But still, that was a long time ago.
It's a long
Wind Waker was a while ago. So, like, yeah, he's different, but it's like, it's been a while since we've seen him. Like,
that's true. That is true.
Yeah.
I will say, all like the thirst like shit aside,
I
did see the look for how Ganondorf is in this one. It is a cool look. It's a good look.
He looks, honestly, when I saw him, the design for Ganondorf in this game, I thought to myself, oh, it's Demise from Skyward Sword. It looks
I can see that.
Lot like Demise.
I know the look of Demise, so I could see that. Yeah.
So I was like lining those two up, and that's why I thought, oh, we're doing a sky layer, we're doing the sky map, and he looks a lot more Demise. Like maybe we're closer to, in chronology, we're closer to Skyward Sword than we thought previously.
That's true.
Because we thought, the Zelda timeline's all hypothetical.
Yes.
And Nintendo has no hard stances on the timeline at all. But we all thought that Breath of the Wild occurred in the timeline way at the end. Actually, after all of the other games, we thought Breath of the Wild was the game that brought everything back together, brought all three timelines that split in Ocarina of Time, brought them all back together. I'm not so convinced anymore. I don't know.
Have we considered the option that just like the Zelda team really doesn't care about the timeline? They're just making games?
We have absolutely considered that option, and we do not care.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
We in fact, we probably know.
Yeah.
Very well that the Zelda team does not care.
So it does seem like that anytime that I do see stuff about anybody who's worked on the games, like, and they do get that question about just like, so in the timeline, they're just like, sure, man, I don't know, like...
Yes, absolutely. I think that the goal is not to make a cohesive timeline for them. It's to make the game and the story, and and it's always going to be Zelda and Link and Ganondorf. It's always going to be some iteration of that, and that's all that it needs to be.
For sure.
Yeah.
Since we are talking about it a little bit here, I know you still have your talking points you want to get through, but I'm just curious because we know I'm a critter. We know I'm a big fan of the man himself. Just like, how is Mercer for Ganondorf? Is it? Fantastic. I would only imagine that like it couldn't be anything else. Like,
of course it is.
Yeah.
He's so good.
When they announced it, I was just like, yeah, this, like, I'm surprised we didn't hear about this, like, previously for other titles where Ganon may have talked or something like that. But, like,
I would be curious to know how much is actually his production of his voice and how much they're like filtering or adding to it or deepening or anything.
Like, gotcha.
Because I don't really know. I haven't consumed nearly as much Critical Role.
Yeah,
set Dimension 20 Critical Role as you have.
So well, he's now on Dimension 22. He's running a campaign
well,
for
you know.
D20s.
The D&D cinematic universe.
Yeah.
But so I'm not as familiar with his voice and what he can do with it. Because I know he does a lot of voice. He's a voice actor.
Yes.
So
he's got a pretty wide, if it's just about like how like low he's got a pretty good range for like depth of like where he can really take his voice and stuff like that. But I don't know like what filtering or like, there's probably a decent amount, but like.
Yeah. There's certainly times where it's like, oh, they're putting something on there because they're, you know how like you'll put like a deep bass on like somebody's voice to make them sound really demonic.
Yeah.
There's that happening at some points. But the rest of the time, I don't know how much is Matt versus what is, production. But
I got you.
But it's still great.
Oh yeah. Well, and then like, and even still, production can only do so much to save a bad performance. Hate to talk shit on Mr. Dinklage when he was first the little sprite in Destiny originally, but there was no filters or anything that could have saved. It was like
I had to know that.
I just like man, it's like, listen, can't pretend he's not a great actor. Some people just aren't voice actors, and that's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, that's good. Like, I mean, I didn't think I was gonna hear you say like, oh, it's awful, but like I was just like, I was just curious.
No, I like the voice acting across the board. I liked all the voice acting in Breath of the Wild, and I like it all in Tears of the Kingdom.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And it's cool to have voice acting in a Zelda title. We don't normally get that.
I was going to say that doesn't normally happen. So I think that's part of why it was such a big deal when they were like, no, it's Mercer doing Ganondorf for this one.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming Link is still just mostly quiet.
100%.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
don't think they should change that now.
I don't think that should change. No. Especially since, they did try it. They did try it a couple times.
They did. Oh.
And, they are not canon, but in the CDI games from way back in the day.
Those. Unless it's games done quick and they're speed running them.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah. Did you have any other questions that you wanted to know about the game?
Well, I mean, just more. I mean, you've talked about it a bit, but I think just like more for you personally, as somebody who has just been a fan of this series for so long, I would just want to know like kind of where does this rank for you in terms of like.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
So here's my thing.
Ooh,
I talked about this in the Breath of the Wild episode.
Uh-huh.
Might get heat for this, but here's the thing. I really like and sort of miss the old Legend of Zelda format of like the linear plot line. The go here, do this, go into this dungeon, clear the thing, you save the land, go to the next place. Like I kind of miss that. In Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom now, it's wide open and you can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
and
wherever you want to go.
Literal sandbox now, especially with all of the new abilities and devices and things. So it got, it went from linear to do whatever the fuck you want, And I kind of, it's hard to compare them. It's apples and oranges.
Yeah,
At a certain point. It's so like I'm a huge fan of Wind Waker and like Twilight Princess. Like those are up there. Ocarina of Time is my all-time favorite because I grew up with it. Mm-hmm. It's the first one for me. It's perfect. It's bad, but it's perfect.
We can recognize how incredibly innovative and incredible it was in the time that it came out. However, with the reference of time, we can look back and go, there are some mechanics that should have evolved from that, and thankfully they have.
Yes, absolutely. But like when Breath of the Wild came out and I played it, I was like, this is a great game.
Right.
It's not a good Zelda game. That was my opinion, right?
I remember I saw a lot of that in terms of like people's opinions. I was like, cool game. I don't think it's a Zelda game.
Yeah, it's just, it broke the format so much. Not that that is a bad thing. Yeah. Like, I like that they're trying a different thing. But I miss old format.
I saw an interesting take on it where it was Aaron Hansen from Game Grumps, and I caught this when I was doing when I watched the gameplay for Breath of the Wild when we did our episode on Breath of the Wild back in the day. Mm-hmm. Also a good episode. Go watch that one. Plug number 3.
We can't do any more.
That's our cap.
We're at the limit.
We're done.
Yeah.
But he saw it as a sort of different return to form for Zelda, as a comparison to the very, very, very first Zelda game from back in the day.
Fair.
Because he was like, That game, you walk into a cave, a dude said, "Here's a sword. Get out of here, kid." And then you're just out in the world, and you kind of have to figure out where to go from there. So he saw it as a return to form for that, where it's just like, well, here's your main quest. Okay, go have fun. Bye. It's just sort of like that. So
have fun storming the castle, boys.
Pretty much, like, and I see what you're saying, because like what has evolved from Zelda has been a very linear path, which isn't a bad thing. Like, we all know that I'm a fan of story. I love storylines. A lot of the games I love are very, very linear set games. But that would be the only thing that I would say, was that, like, I think it is like I would argue it is a return to form, but just going a little bit further back to sort of like what they had in mind when they first started off with Zelda. Do you know what I mean?
You're not wrong. Yeah. I hear you. I totally hear you.
Yeah. But I understand you kind of being like, well, I miss this feeling for this game.
Yeah. I miss like an inventory of stuff, like, oh, I got the boomerang, and I got the Goron hammer, and I got the, the whatever, and then you get like this collection of things. Yeah. And you're like, I'm stacked now, I'm ready. Yeah. I don't know.
But I do think, though, that it's good to talk about, though, because I think that we are seeing sort of a little bit of that new turning point for Zelda a little bit. Yeah. Especially with the fact that they just like, no, this is a straight up sequel to Breath of the Wild. I think that this is sort of the developers going to go on like, hey guys, we know it's different, what we're doing now, but this is what we're going to be doing for a while now, which makes sense considering how much they can clearly do in that world. You know what I mean?
No, and I love it. It's like, don't get me wrong, it's so good. It's so good, and it's been consuming my life. I will easily put probably upwards of 200 hours into this game.
Oh yeah, that would easily would make sense
in a single run. Like,
that would make sense.
There's so much to do. There's so much to do. Like, this game feels a lot more fleshed out than Breath of the Wild, because like Breath of the Wild, it was like, okay, yeah, you go to this town and you get your main quest, and then there's like one or two guys that have side quests. Okay, whatever. Sure. Yeah. In this game, everyone you fucking talk to
has something for you to do.
Has something for you to do, or mention something that you can go do. Like, they might not directly give you a side quest, but they might be like, I heard something in the well, oh ho ho, and like you know that there's something down there. So like, everywhere you turn, there is something to do.
So fairly Skyrim-esque in terms of like, you kind of can bump into people and they'll be like, I heard that there's ghosts like out and blah, blah, blah. And you can go check it out. I'm like, oh shit, there's ghosts out here.
Absolutely.
Okay, I like that though.
And the world has advanced since the end of Breath of the Wild. Right. So like, it feels, as our friend Missy pointed out, it feels more lived in.
I see. Yeah. Which I'm glad they took that into consideration, because I think that, I mean, like, based on the story that I got from Breath of the Wild, I think it was supposed to feel a little open and empty. And that might have been like them being concerned about like limitations gameplay wise, so they worked, but they did manage to kind of work that in there. But since we are doing a little bit of a time jump between the games, it would make sense that the world would be a little bit more filled out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it makes it feel like you had an impact on the world as well too, as like a character.
Plus, especially with Breath of the Wild, it was like, oh, this is the kingdom in ruins. Like, this is the bad place.
Yes,
you know? And then you kind of save Hyrule, and then you come back, and it's like, oh well, yeah, there's a lot more going on now. We've got a new issue to deal with, but like, the world is thriving a little bit more than it was.
Yeah. I get you.
When I dropped so the game starts you off like, once you actually gain control of Link and are doing things, you're up in the Sky Islands. And you basically have to like get built up enough so that you can leave the Sky Islands and like drop back down to Hyrule. And so I was playing, I was like, this is great, learning all the new powers, getting equipment, and plot was unfolding, whatever. We met Rauru, all of that. And then it was like,
you just stood there with your jaw dropped for 5 minutes. Come on, I gotta play a game.
A little bit. But then it was like time to go back down to Hyrule to like go search for Princess Zelda. We're looking for Zelda again in this game.
Of course. I would expect nothing less.
Shocker. So like, I dropped down, landed in a pool of water, got up, looked out, and I was like, I'm back. Like, I was like, oh my god. It was like in the Matrix. I was like, I'm back in.
Oh shit,
no.
Here we go.
I was out. Like, it was weird. It was a surreal moment, because up until then it was like all new areas,
totally different
new stuff. Yeah. And then I dropped in and it was like, oh my god, I'm back. It was like Katniss in the Quarter Quell.
Sorry. Lost on me. Completely lost on me.
Hunger Games.
No, I know. Okay. I get the reference. This is the reference means nothing to me.
What?
Never got into Hunger Games. I'm sorry.
Well, the people understand.
They'll understand. As I'm sure everyone's excited for the prequel that's coming out. Anyway.
So if I might just jump into story.
Of course.
So I'm not through the game at all. And spoilers ahead again. Like real like plot spoilers.
Yeah.
you're warned. So in this game, we are searching for Princess Zelda.
Yes.
But here's the thing. It's very quickly found out at the beginning that Zelda has jumped back in time. So she's way back in the past. Actually.
Interesting.
Yes. So throughout the game, there's these 12 things that you can collect called Dragon's Tears.
Yes.
And each of them comes with like a little memory. And it's like Zelda in the past.
Okay.
So at the beginning of the game, Zelda and Link are exploring these like caves underneath Hyrule Castle. And that's when they find like mummified Ganondorf, right? He's being like sealed by this glowing blue hand.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, what the fuck is that? And the seal gets broken, Ganondorf gets released, and there's this like stone of power, right, that falls off, and Zelda grabs it, and then it transports her back in time and saves her because it's all collapsing, right? They're gonna die. So it transports her back in time. Link gets saved by the spirit of Rauru, who we saw. He was the first king of Hyrule, you find out.
Ooh, okay.
Exactly. And is Zelda's long lost predecessor.
Gotcha.
Along with a Hylian, which like started the like current race of Hylians that we know in Hyrule today. Anyways, so Zelda's like jumped back in the past, but everybody in Hyrule present and Link are like, we gotta find Zelda because like Link's back from, exploring, he's safe, good, like we gotta find Zelda. And people keep seeing her. And, like, we keep seeing her.
Interesting.
And it's Zelda. And it's like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
What's going on? And I don't think it's really Zelda.
Really?
I think it's somebody in disguise.
Oh, so you think they're doing, what was the alternate personality that Zelda had in Ocarina of Time?
Oh, Sheik? Not that.
No, but I mean, I think it's the flip of that. Where it's not Zelda in disguise, it's someone disguised as Zelda.
As Zelda.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I would think that. That's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah. Because every time you go to like a new area and they're talking, like Zelda was here and she told us to do this thing, and it's very counterintuitive to like what would make sense.
Yeah,
it's like, Zelda came and she said not to explore these ruins because they're dangerous. Why don't you want us to explore the ruins?
Yeah, what's
or
going on over
Zelda
there?
Came here. I just hit a stable last night, a stable of people, and they were all in their underpants and just like running around doing nothing. They were like, these were our orders from Zelda. She said to like
take off your clothes and
take off our clothes and just like train in our underpants and whatever. And I was just like, why? So I don't.
That to me would track that it would be somebody as Zelda just trying to fuck with
no.
I
think that like it's somebody disguised as Zelda running around and just like fucking everything up.
Interesting. Yeah. I like that though. That's fun.
And then I won't reveal like the big spoiler in case you ever play it. I don't know. Will you? Mm-hmm.
We'll see. You know what? Yeah, I'll play it. I will play it. I will play this.
It's really good.
I'll pick it up and I will play this.
Super worth. Okay, then I won't reveal.
The wife's got a new controller too. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we just got brand new controllers.
Yeah.
So I won't reveal anything more, but okay. I very much think I've collected all of the tiers, I've unlocked all the map, I've been playing way too much. I
also think it would be great though, just like talking about the way that there's this like possible fake Zelda who's running around just trying to mess with things, and considering that she made like a whole like group of people just take off their clothes and run around their underwear, and they were like, this is what Zelda told us to do. I also think the opposite would be good too for that you get to the end of the game and it actually does
make sense. Was Zelda.
And it was Zelda, and she was just like, no, this let me explain why it makes sense.
Let me explain all of my actions.
Let me explain why all of this actually tracks would also be really, really good. Or if she was just like, I just wanted to see if they do it. Just wanted to see if they would do that.
No, Zelda's not like that. She wouldn't do that.
Zelda would never.
But anyway, so you're as you're going along, you're getting these memories, and it's these echoes of like, events that happened long in the past, all involving Princess Zelda. And you're also going to the different regions, similar to Breath of the Wild, and unlocking, not unlocking, but like awakening sages from each of the different races of people. So you got one from the Zora, the Rito, the bird people, the Gorons, and the Gerudo, who are out in the desert.
Yes.
And you you do a dungeon, you unlock it, and then you awaken them as a sage, and then you get their powers, which is really cool. So they follow you along as little avatars in the world, and they'll fight with you and stuff. It's great. It's fantastic.
That's cool. Okay.
No notes.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's really fun. Okay.
So I have 3 of the 4 main dungeons completed. I'm holding off because I want to go do side quests because I've been collecting a lot of side quests, but not doing a lot of side quests.
Got that laundry list going.
Exactly.
I'm just like, I gotta go do this.
And it's so much. Oh my gosh.
That is where I do like, not to say it's an issue because it's a personal thing, but I had that playing Skyrim and other RPGs in the past where I just like, I get excited. I'm just like, oh, I can pick up this side quest and this side quest. And then I sit there and just kind of like, am I going to do all of this? Like, am I really going to do all of this right now? Because like,
yeah. I feel
how involved are the side quests though? Like how much to like, what's the most amount of time you've spent on like doing something off to the side?
Well, get this. Ooh. Some of them are side quests.
Yes.
Some of them are side adventures.
Okay.
There's 2 different sections in the like list of quests. There's like main quest, side adventures, side quests, shrine quests, which leads you to a shrine, and then maybe something else. I think maybe that's only
I've seen other games sort of break it down like that before. Mm-hmm. Just like, what is the difference between a side quest and a side adventure?
So like one of the side adventures is there's this village called Lorellan Village. It's this fishing village at the southern edge of the map on the beach. Mm-hmm. And it's like a fishing village. And you can go there in Breath of the Wild. In this game, when you start out, it's been taken over by monsters.
Ooh, okay.
So it's overrun with monsters and all of the villagers have been forced out and it's in shambles. So when you get there, you get a side quest to like clear all the monsters out from the village. Okay, so you do that, you clear them all out, cool, village is saved. But now the village is in shambles, so you have to rebuild the village. So the side adventure is rebuilding all of the different buildings in the town. So like that was like a bit more involved because it's like, okay, I have to go get materials. So I have to go get logs, and I have to go get like, you know, like roof materials, whatever. Bring those. Okay, now we can get started. Okay, let's build this building.
Yeah.
Okay, so you do a thing for this building. Okay, great. Now let's rebuild this building. So you do a thing for that building. So, like, that one was a little bit more involved than a side quest, which might be like, oh, there's a monster in this cave. Go kill it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Okay, so it's like there are side quests and those can sort of lead you to the side adventures, basically.
They could. Yeah. But yeah, there's so much.
It's very like Far Cry 6 has that mechanic where it's like you will go and like sort of like retake over a fortress in the town that you're in, and then once you do that, somebody turns up and goes, it's something like, this actually used to be a radio broadcast tower. If you help us get this and this, we could get the ward back down and like help out with
right.
revolution and shit like that. So I was like, okay,
yeah,
I dig that though. That's cool.
Yeah, quests can beget more quests.
Yes,
essentially.
I do like it when they have that snowball effect like that in a certain sense.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot to do in this game. I think you should pick it up. I think you, the listener, should go pick it up. It's great. You know, get a friend, go in halvesies on it, and both of you play it. You know, something like, play this game. It's so good. You don't have to have played Breath of the Wild. You can totally enjoy this game without it.
Cool.
And it will consume your entire life.
Well, all right.
Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you for coming back. It's good to be back. Thank you very much for listening to this episode on Tears of the Kingdom. We want to know what wild contraptions that you're building or what side adventures you've found in Tears of the Kingdom and what you're doing. Let us know.
Also, if you have any more ideas for future episodes or other things you would like us to discuss on the show in general, you can send us an email at 3vopodcastteam@gmail.com. We're all over all the different social medias, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We need to get more active on those things again, but that'll come with like getting back into the swing of things. But also please hit us up on any of those things if you also would just like want to talk to us at all.
All right, we'll see you next time. Bye.